Okay, so domain and range. Given the function, you have to come up with the domain and range. Remember that we're going to write this in interval notation, so we're going to be using brackets and parentheses. Okay, so domain is how wide the graph is. So if you look at number 1 and you go from left to right, since you have arrows, that graph goes on forever towards the left and forever towards the right. So your domain is going to be negative infinity to infinity. And they're going to use parentheses. Your range is going to be from 0 up to, zero including up to infinity, because the very bottom is at 0 and it goes on forever towards infinity. Number 2, if you were to figure out left to right, you're going to take your numbers off the x-axis because you're dealing with domain, so that's from -1 to +5. You want to include +5 but not include -1 because that's an open circle. Open means parentheses, closed means bracket. And then going from bottom to top, you're going from -2 up to +5. And at -2, you want a parentheses, and at +5, you want a bracket. Okay, for the next one, you have arrows going in both directions. So if you go from left to right on this, you're basically going from -infinity to infinity, both with parentheses. And then if you go from top to bottom, again, arrows going in both directions. So it's going to be -infinity to infinity. On number 4, if you go from left to right, it's going to be here, and you're going all the way to infinity. So you're starting at 0 and you're including it because of the closed dot, and you're going to infinity. And then if you want to go from bottom to top, you're going to start here and go up, and since it's a arrow, it's going to be 0 to infinity as well. That arrow looks like it's not going to cross this, but as it gets bigger, it will eventually keep crossing and getting taller and taller. For number 5, domain is left to right, and since those are both arrows, that means that it's going on forever, so it's going to be -infinity to infinity. And that's because those are arrows, so you have to assume that this graph is getting wider as it's getting taller. And then for your range, from bottom to top, you're basically starting at 2 and you're going up to the higher numbers, so it's going to be from 2 to infinity. Okay, on this one, left to right, it starts here and it ends here. So when you look at your x, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -5, and you're including because that's a closed dot. And you're going all the way to +5, and you are not including because that is an open circle. Now, your range is going to go from the very bottom of the graph to the very top of the graph. So you're going from 0 to 6, and on the bottom, that's a closed dot, so you're including it. And on the top at 6, you're not including it. Okay, on the back, this one is going to be a union because there's a break in the graph. So if you're going from the left hand, you don't go left all the way to the end. Okay, that wouldn't be, you have this piece right here that's not part of the graph. So you're going to have to do 2 different ones. So we're going to take care of the left side first. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, -7, all the way to -1. You're going to include -7 and not include -1. And then you're going to put the little U for union, and you're going to do this part from here to here. And so you're doing from 1, including, because of the closed dot, to 7, and not including because of the open. Going the other direction from bottom to top, you're going to start down here and go up to here, and then do a union and go from this point to this point. So you're going from very bottom to very top, but you have to break, so you've got to have 2 different ones. So let's do this one first. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is at -4. and you're including it because that is part of the graph that's dark, so that's like a dark circle. And then you're going up to -2, and you're including that because you have a dark here and an open here, and the dark will always outweigh the light, or the open. Okay, so a closed circle will always outweigh an open circle. So then we put the union and we start up here. Now up here we have it at 1, and again we have a closed circle and an open, so the closed will trump it or will outweigh it. And we're going up to 3, and that's part of the graph, so it's going to be a bracket. Okay, again, because this part up at the top and the part down here at the bottom are parts of the graph, like they're actually dark, that means you include it. All right, number 8. Left to right, it's here to here, so that's going to be 2 including, because it's a closed dot, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, not including because it's an open. And then going the other direction from bottom to top, you're going from 1 included up to 6 including. Okay, and this next one, because you do have this piece that these are coming close to the axes, but they're not going to cross them, you're going to have a union here. So this is going to be domain, the end of this graph is -infinity, use a parentheses, and you're going all the way to 0, but you're not going to hit 0. So we want to come close to it but not hit it, so we're going to use a parenthesis. And then union, again, we're going to start at 0 but not include it. We want to come close to 0 but not include it, so we're going to use a parenthesis, and that's going to go all the way to infinity. So it's going to look like that. And then it's going to be the same thing for our range, because the lowest point is -infinity, and we're going all the way up to 0, but we're not including it, union, and then we're going to pick up from 0 again, not include it, and go to infinity. Okay? So again, this little axis is not included on there, so we want everything up to 0 but not including it, and everything after 0 but not including it. So this is pretty much all the real numbers except 0. All right, for 10 and 11, you have to find the range, which means all you're doing is substituting in the domain. Remember, domain is your x's, and you're trying to find your y's. So if the equation is y equals x, and x is 0, then y equals 0, y equals 1, and y equals 2, because y is x. So your range is 0, 1, 2, just like your domain, because y is the same as x. Now, in the last one, you have to do a little bit of work. These are your x's. You're trying to find your y's. So y is going to be equal to -3/4 times 0 plus 2. So my first y is going to be 2. Anything times 0 cancels out, so y is 2. So that's my first number. Then I have to do y equals -3/4 times 4 plus 2. So -3/4 times 4 is -3 plus 2. Y is equal to -1. And then I have y equals -3/4 times 8 plus 2. Notice I'm just putting the x's where x is in the equation, and I'm solving for y. So y is going to be equal to 8 divided by 4 is 2, and -3 times 2 is -6. Plus 2 gives me a y value of -4. So my range is 2, -1, -4.